Every year, politicians warn, if we want to put food on our tables, we have to save the family farm. When they say that, watch your wallet.
Lawmakers in Washington have passed a new farm bill.
This year, Congress passed another $300 billion farm bill. Senator McCain called it bloated legislation that will do more harm than good. But Senator Obama supported it.
We cannot turn back, not with an economy to fix and farms to save.
Saving farms is what politicians promise that farm supports will do.
Now, how old is this cat?
It's the reason they do photo ops like this one. Senator Obama wouldn't talk to me about the farm bill. In fact, we contacted 69 members of Congress who voted for it, but couldn't get any of them to talk to us. Finally, Randy Kuhl of New York and Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas agreed to speak.
Family farms, small farms are important.
And I don't think we want anybody in this country to starve.
People would starve?
They go out of business, then they'd be forced to move elsewhere and find different jobs.
Well, that's not starving, that's finding a different job.
But if they don't have a job, then they're going to starve.
Well, they're doing pretty well in Nebraska, where 2020 went as part of ABC's election project, 50 States in 50 Days. Nebraska corn farmer Mike Korth gets subsidies. He'll take the money, he says, but he's against the farm bill.
It's a bad bill. In the end, if you take a bunch of money, it's like they grab the treasure chest, they open the door on it, and whoever can get the most out of it, you just run away with it.
Nebraska farmers are running away with a lot of your money. Home prices may have been falling in most of America, but farmland prices have been rising. Here they've shot up 77% in 4 years. Farm subsidies rarely go to poor people. The average farmer makes twice what the average American earns. Yet Nebraska politicians want more.
We need to get farmers a better safety net here.
If you're a politician from Nebraska and you want to get elected, Republican or Democrat, the way to do that is to say, I support farm subsidies.
Yes, that's a very important thing to our farmer is subsidies.
They would lose dramatic population if the subsidies weren't there at all.
But despite the billions spent on subsidies, farm towns are smaller than ever. In Mike Korth's town, store after store is boarded up.
It's pretty sad. The school at one time had just short of 1,000 kids in it, and now we don't have 300.
It hasn't kept these small towns alive.
Well, I think it has. I'm from a small town of 72 people. I am, and I'm going to tell you, farm subsidies have helped that town.
After this interview, we researched his town. It was twice as big during the Depression. Population has dropped steadily ever since.
But this isn't working. Well, I think it is.
We're all paying more. You guys are on welfare. It's not working.
Actually, I disagree with that because I think it is working.
Actually, a government study found that the more farm aid a county got, the more likely it was to lose population. Why would that be? Because subsidies make it harder for smaller farmers to compete. Economist Walter Williams.
The farm subsidies go to very, very wealthy farmers, not the ma and pa farm. It's these huge agribusinesses that get the big subsidies.
Farmers like Maurice Wilder. He's been America's single biggest recipient of farm subsidies. He wouldn't let us take a picture of his jet, but here he is at one of his many homes. Wilder's estimated to be worth $500 million. But he still gets your help making ends meet.
Where is a limit where you say, you know what, you're big enough now, you can put your pants on by yourself?
How do rich farmers legally get subsidies? The Farm Bill does say
no payments to farmers who make more than $1.25 million a year.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you, any one of them guys, they've got accountants that can hide that income.
When you have a farm bill this size, this stretches almost 2 football fields. There are loopholes in here somewhere for a wealthy farmer to crawl through.
I don't blame anybody from taking it when it's there and available.
You're getting a handout.
Well, they're getting, you know, in a sense, it is a handout.
This is not a handout, take it, and if you lose it, fine, walk away. Not at all.
It's not?
No, it's not.
Why isn't that a handout?
I don't term it a handout, I term it an investment.
But that's your money he's investing. And why? We don't need farm subsidies to have an ample food supply. I bet you didn't know that the growers of most crops don't get subsidies.
Growers of apples, bananas, broccoli, cabbage, cantaloupe, carrots, cauliflower, grapes, lemons, limes, lettuce, and dozens of other crops get no subsidies.
There's no cabbage crisis or pineapple panic. And yet, because big crops get subsidies like rice and corn, food costs more.
I'm not used to paying these prices.
Another reason prices are high is that farmers get paid for not farming.
You get a government payment on it, about $26,000.
More than $20,000 a year for not farming his land. Real estate agents even use farm payments to sell homes to non-farmers. Agents didn't want to say that on television, so our producer posed as a home buyer and brought along a video camera.
Do you have to farm it? Do you have to farm it to receive it?
No. It's like a little bonus that you don't really have to do anything to get.
All these homes get government payments, though nothing's farmed here. The owner of this home collected $7,000.
Well, it's like offered to us.
She isn't exactly sure why.
I think it's a weird setup, but there's a lot of weird setups.
This is just a crazy system. It's left over from the 1930s, left over from the Depression, and it's a great example of how nothing is as permanent as a temporary government program.
Of course, it is true that without subsidies, some bureaucrats would be out of work, and some farms would go out of business. But that's okay, say economists. It's part of the creative destruction that makes America strong.
When there's progress, certain jobs are destroyed and certain jobs are created. The guy who delivered ice to my house, he doesn't have the job because we have refrigerators. We're better off. Now, the guy who lost his job selling ice, he probably got some other job, but we would have been held back if we had tried to save his job.
But today in America, politicians are eager to spend your money to keep certain auto companies afloat.
Loan guarantees that we've already passed for our auto industry.
Certain banks in business.
We must pass legislation to address this crisis.
And to keep farms from closing.
I think we might have to get 2 or 3 of these, don't you think?
Yeah. There is one country that has abolished farm subsidies, New Zealand. There were riots and protests when they did that. Farmers said, we'll go bankrupt. People said, we'll starve. But it didn't happen. In fact, farm productivity quintupled.
Agriculture there has boomed once they got people off the dole. Instead of sucking up to you politicians, they found ways to be more efficient as farmers.
I don't have many farmers sucking up. I do have them coming in and thanking me for allowing their family farm to survive.
Clothing and shelter are important too. Why don't we subsidize them? If this works so well, why don't we just subsidize everything?
Well, I would say to you that you don't want to push us.
Shipping jobs overseas, outsourcing, is bad for America. You all know that's true, right? After all, during the election, everyone talked about that.
We care about outsourcing in America
that exports products, not jobs.
Unions are furious about outsourcing.
Show us the job!
Both plants that I worked for sent their production overseas.
We asked the AFL-CIO, America's largest labor organization, for their best examples of outsourced workers. And the first people they told us to talk to were Shirley and Ronnie Bernard.
You'll find something eventually.
They used to work at this Levi's factory in Powell, Tennessee, but then Levi's started sending jobs to Mexico, closing all its Tennessee plants.
A lot of people in tears?
Tore a lot of people up because some people's been here since they've been 16 years of age. And they've been here like 20-something odd years, more or less.
Like Shirley and her husband.
You've done something for 20 years, got up, went to work every day, and then all of a sudden, you don't have any place to go and nobody needs you anymore. So, you don't have a job.
Exporting America tonight, still ahead here.
Lou Dobbs feels their pain. The CNN anchor has made complaints about outsourcing, a trademark of his show.
So companies just shouldn't do it?
In my judgment, absolutely not.
Dobbs' book on outsourcing says the government should limit free trade and immediately outlaw outsourcing of government contracts.
Just because of cheap labor, we're destroying our middle class. That is just stupid. Being stupid is un-American.
Wait a second. It's restricting outsourcing that would be un-American and stupid.
Thank you for calling technical support.
You may not like that someone in India takes your customer service call, but outsourcing helps the middle class by bringing lower prices. Take clothing. Lots of it is made abroad these days, and Lou Dobbs sees that as a terrible thing.
This country cannot even clothe itself. 96% of our apparel is imported.
But that's okay. We have more choices for less money.
When was the last time you bought a suit of clothes? Because if your prices went down, I would be shocked.
Be shocked, then, Here's the Labor Department's price index for clothing. It's gone down and down. But what about all those jobs going overseas? Like these jobs. These 50 people in India are doing programming that...
Good morning.
These people in California used to do. They work for a company called CollabNet, run by Bill Portelli.
The Indian engineer costs half as much?
The Indian engineer costs less than half as much.
But some people say this cheats Americans out of jobs.
It doesn't cheat Americans out of jobs. If I hadn't hired the people in India, I would have had to lay people off. They can actually change.
These Americans didn't lose their jobs because outsourcing saved CollabNet so much money they could expand in America.
Basically, I've created jobs in America. I've built better products, created jobs, been able to raise salaries.
He says he couldn't have grown. He might be out of business.
And then he probably should be out of business. Because the fact of the matter is, either his business would be successful with American workers, or it's not going to be successful at all.
What? The most successful companies are outsourcers. And this Dartmouth study found that outsourcers are the bigger job creators.
Companies that outsourced abroad ended up hiring twice as many workers at home. Excuse me for being the garden at your skunk party, but we're creating more jobs than we're losing.
Well, if you want to go retrospectively, but over the course of the past 4 years, 1 million people have lost their jobs.
Well, maybe if you pick just those years, but those were years when we had a recession. Look at the big picture. Since 1992, it's true, America has lost 391 million jobs. But during that same time, we gained 411 million jobs, 20 million more than we lost.
This is Shirley.
Shirley, the AFL-CIO's example of a victim of outsourcing, did struggle. She had to dig into her savings, and she worries about her long-term security. But she did find a new job as a secretary.
I ended up with, a pretty good job.
Shirley's new job paid more than her old job at Levi's. And the Levi's work was harder. Hot, noisy, physically difficult. The new job was better.
A whole lot easier. Oh, I love my job now. Here, I'll give you chocolate.
Since then, she's taken a different office job.
All kinds of jobs in the paper.
Now, her husband and some former co-workers are still looking for work. Shirley says many have lost everything, and she's against outsourcing. But she also showed us pictures of co-workers who'd gotten new jobs.
He's got a good job now.
Many have better jobs.
Some of them have really got excellent jobs, jobs that they would never have even left Levi's for if the plant hadn't closed. This kind of forced them to make a decision what they wanted to do, and they're really happy at what they do.
Allowing outsourcing creates opportunity. It's easy to see the pain of workers who are laid off.
Cutbacks will result in the loss of more than 2,300 jobs.
It's harder to see the benefits of free trade because those benefits aren't news. That Levi's plant that closed, it's been converted into a college. The jobs of all those who teach here and the construction jobs of all those who converted the building won't be talked about in the evening news. But they're a product of outsourcing too.
The rising outsourcing crisis.
Outsourcing is not a crisis. The crisis will only come if we try to stop it.
Good evening, I'm Terry Moran. We begin tonight with the illegal immigration debate at the cash register. There are an estimated 12 million illegal immigrants in the United States, and 75% of them are of Hispanic origin. By sheer force of numbers, they wield some substantial purchasing power now, and an American pizza chain has now acknowledged that economic reality, allowing customers to pay with Mexican pesos. But is the chain encouraging illegal immigration? Nightline's Chris Bury has the latest installment of our series, Border Wars.
Tucked away in a Dallas strip mall, this tiny pizza parlor appears ordinary enough, except perhaps for the traditional Mexican music. The menus in Spanish, and that small sign noting that Pizza Patron, as this chain is called, now accepts pesos, along with U.S. dollars, of course, and most major credit cards. Nearly all of its customers, no matter their heritage, still pay in good old American greenbacks. But the fast food chain figures that at least 5% do exchange their pesos for pizzas.
We wanted to say to our customer that, look, we understand you. We understand that you might have some pesos that you want to exchange for pizza, and we're the place to do that.
Perfectly legal?
Totally legal, sure. And you're turning it out already, huh?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Company president Antonio Suad, who founded the chain, kicked off the promotion in January. The idea, customers returning from visiting Mexico over the holidays could spend their spare pesos on his pizza. Store employees consult a chart explaining exactly how to convert the currency based on the exchange rate of roughly 12 pesos to the dollar.
If you were to come and bring me, let's say, 200 pesos, for example, we have a chart here that we go look at, and I will come and see that Mexican pesos.
So that 200 pesos, about 1667.
1667. So I will go ahead and bring it up as a regular sale as in U.S. dollars and give your change in U.S. dollars.
So I'm getting my change in American dollars?
Yes, sir.
The promotion worked well enough that it turned into a regular feature at all 64 Pizza Patron outlets. Most of them are in the Southwest, not necessarily along the border, but in such heavily Hispanic cities as Dallas, Denver, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles. But what began simply as a marketing tool quickly became a lightning rod in America's immigration debate.
From the very beginning, I was driving to work on Monday morning and noticed that all the talk radio stations were talking about this.
So this became a hot button.
It just, boom, instantly.
At company headquarters, mail and email came pouring in, and at first, nearly all of it was negative.
It says you should not accept pesos. This is America, not Mexico. As if the illegal immigration problem wasn't bad enough in this country, you people have to accept Mexican money, which makes it look like we're accepting this problem when we need to fight illegal immigration and all the problems these illegals bring with them.
The telephone rang off the hook, and many of the voices were angry.
Your attempt to Mexicanize our country by advertising the fact that you accept pesos is an insult to all of us. If you want to accept pesos, move your ass to Mexico.
Advocates of tougher enforcement complained that accepting pesos undermines American culture. Jean Towell heads an immigration reform group in Dallas.
We are having to encounter so much that is not America anymore. That's not the United States. We are inundated with having to read everything in 2 languages. We are having to deal with so much giving over to people that are not citizens, that are here to have jobs.
But that staunch opposition to pesos apparently does not apply to foreign currency from our neighbors to the north.
Would you be okay with American businesses taking Canadian dollars in Maine or Minnesota, as they do?
I guess that I would just have to go along with it. I think the difference is that we don't see Canadians coming over in droves and taking our jobs.
You have no way of knowing whether your customers are legal or not. Do you care?
No, we don't have any. No more than somebody working at Walmart realizes that they're ringing up somebody at the register, legal or not. We're in the restaurant business. We serve everyone that wants a pizza and has the money to pay for it.
Like so many American success stories, this one started out simply enough with one pizza parlor, this one in Dallas. Its original name was Pizza Pizza, just so no one would mistake its one and only product. Then the owner, Antonio Suad, noticed nearly all of his customers were Latino, so he changed the name to Pizza Patron, essentially hanging out a welcome sign to the Hispanic community.
Patron means the benevolent leader of the community. And the first time I heard that, I said, man, I like the way that sounds.
In a hotly contested business with competitors on nearly every corner, such Hispanic-friendly touches help target a rapidly growing market. Even Walmart now accepts pesos at some of its locations near the border with Mexico. Cell phone companies such as Tuyo Mobile cater exclusively to Latino customers. And of course, Spanish language marketing has exploded across American media.
The estimates of the U.S. Hispanic market as a whole are about $800 billion, with a growth rate that will bring it to about $1 trillion in 2011. And what we've seen, when you track that number, every 2 years it's had to be adjusted upward. So it's a large number, and it's a growing number, faster than other subgroups in this country.
For Pizza Patron, the great peso controversy has produced some unintended consequences. Email traffic is now running about even between positive and negative messages. Antonio Swad, whose own background is Lebanese and Italian, has become something of a hero in the Hispanic community for taking on his critics.
Are you convinced that this particular program has earned you some genuine loyalty among Latinos?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had a lot of comments, people saying, you know what, you're not afraid, you didn't back down with all the heat. So by not backing down, that's a way of sticking up. And we're not going to sell out our customers.
In fact, the company boasts that business since January has jumped 34% over the same period last year. A nice bump that it attributes, at least in part, to all the buzz surrounding Pizza for Pesos. It plans to open many more outlets in the next few years.
Pizza Lista!
An old-fashioned example of one company finding its niche, seizing the opportunity, and cashing in. Something as American as pepperoni pie. This is Chris Bury for Nightline in Dallas.
The European integration process, it's an enormous success story. If you look back at the European history, which was a terrible history, we had hardly 10 years in our histories without big wars, and now we have had more than 50 years now with without a war among ourselves, and the war has become unthinkable. And if you look at the relation now between people, there's real understanding. The young European citizens, they feel European.
Regional trading blocs have changed the global marketplace by lowering trade barriers and opening up new markets for goods and services. The most advanced example of regionalism, however, currently exists in Europe. Simply put, the changes that Europe has made, especially in the last decade, are nothing short of astounding.
Basically, there's very few areas of national life which are not touched in some way by the European Union. So it's more than an international organisation in the traditional sense. But it is, of course, less than a state. It's not a state in the making.
The EU is a family of democratic European countries committed to working together for peace and prosperity, who have chosen to delegate some of their sovereignty in order to make decisions that can benefit the entire Union.
I think it has a GDP of some $10.5 trillion. It's the world's leading exporter. It's, if you like, the largest economic entity in the world.
The European Union is a very important player internationally. The population of double of the United States of America, and therefore we will have important responsibilities in the world, and we have to be prepared to act, and to act as an agent of peace, as an agent of stability, as an agent of prosperity.
You might have an opportunity to travel within the European Union as either a college student or a business person. If so, you'll probably notice the absence of any border guards. You can now travel from France to Germany, for example, without a passport. And thanks to the euro, you don't need to exchange currency each time you enter a new country. And if you're an EU citizen, you can travel, study, and work wherever you want in the EU. The goal? Greater freedom of movement as a fundamental right and an end to discrimination based on nationality.
as Europe was emerging from the ruins of the war, the founding fathers of Europe tried to find a new way of cooperating.
The concept was first proposed by the French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman in a speech on May 9, 1950. This anniversary has come to be known as Europe Day. The following year, in 1950,